Hello, Harold.
Hello, Veronica.
Right. Now, we talked last evening about various things, and we discussed things that are important for people to know at this time. So, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I mean, there are many interviews out there on BASIS conference, the interviews attached to the conference. So we basically covered most of the topics that I did research on. What I thought that might be interesting for the public. There are a lot of things going on in the field of medicine.
Yes.
Major shifts in understanding what health is.
Yes.
And I thought it might be useful to have a look at this topic from a very far out view to understand actually what is going on, and with this also to understand why people are mainly ill these days and not healthy anymore. And before we can do this medical thing, the first thing to understand is the difference between inside box thinking and outside box thinking.
Oh, yes.
Yeah? Because inside the box we were never going to be able to solve the problems concerned our health, because most of the thinking within the box is based on misunderstandings, myth, complete distorted picture of biology. And if you try to first to get an idea, let's compare different fields of our life. If you look into politics, inside box thinking would say we are ruled by the wrong people. Outside box thinking would say the concept of being ruled is wrong.
Exactly.
We need to step into self-responsibility. If you look into monetary system, we could say inside box thinking the money is not distributed in the right way. You know, we should get our money back. Outside box thinking would say the concept of using money is wrong because it is basing our life on scarcity.
Yes.
And there is no other outcome than scarcity if you base your culture on scarcity. You will never be able to come into abundance as long as you use money. So let's drop the concept and enjoy the abundance that is around us. Everything basically is for free if you don't put a price to it. Yeah. So this is the difference between outside box thinking and inside box. And with the medicine, it is similar in a way. If we go to the very basic understanding of medicine, what we do find is kind of wartime philosophy.
Yes.
Yeah, there's the great enemy that is attacking our health, and we must defeat him. We must kill the germs. The entire idea of infection theory is basically born out of wartime medicine, and the entire thinking of having an enemy is embedded within the concept of medicine. And this is not what biology is about. Actually, there are hardly no enemies in biology. We might make we might say it's okay, the concept, if you look at things like malaria. Yes. Which is a parasite that gets at you, and if it gets at you, you're in trouble. Yeah. This is where this infection theory actually comes from, but most of the diseases you can catch. This is self-regulatory system of the body. If you poison yourself with things, a certain virus or germ will appear to cleanse the system. And what we call disease is nothing else than the symptom of self-regulation, of cleansing the body. This is one thing. The second half is attached to psychological problems. If you went through a traumatizing event, the body is stepping back from certain functions for a number of years to make life easier. And when this number of years is over, you want to reintegrate the things you had pushed away to be able to deal with the trauma. And this is accompanied by certain biological symptoms. Most of the cancer we see is triggered by these psychological backgrounds. And if you understand the way it works, if you understand the trauma that is behind, and you just heal the trauma by talking about it, by bringing it to the consciousness, the disease disappears on its own. So these are kind of the original biological functions of diseases. There's a third one that goes more to the collective.
Sorry. Yeah.
To the collective thing. This is most of the virus and the epidemics we had. This is not targeting an individual. He might be healthy out of his own, but this is targeting populations.
Yes.
This is a regulatory system taking care of the topic of overpopulation.
Yeah.
This is based on biophoton exchange. If people live on a very dense area, the biophoton exchange between the bodies is signaling the body, please do something to sort out a number of people because this is getting too dense. So this, in an overall context, also is very supportive biology, because if we're not alone here, we are living with other creatures, we're living with plants, we're living with the entire biological setup. We have our place in this. And if we exceed the space that is given to us, it is normal for biology and healthy to reduce the species that is doing this. We would do it with rats, we would do it with cockroaches. Whenever they get too many, you need to do something about it. And this is self-regulatory as well. It was discovered basically with the viruses. The very first scientific mentioning of viruses was studying coral reefs in West Africa. And they discovered that the DNA is extracting fragments of DNA, reproducing them and sending them to other species for the interspecies communication.
Wow.
To regulate the order within this very complex coral reef. And this was the first scientific description of viruses. And it was completely forgotten that this actually is a way of communicating in between species. To extract fragments of DNA, reproduce them. This was the very first description. And then they called it a disease and started to fight the communication system of nature, and they're surprised that everything gets worse. So this is kind of the very basic thing we need to learn how to think outside the box. Question very basic things like infection theory, the interaction of psychological motives or background stories when it comes to disease. And the rest is homemade. Most of the disease we're having problems with now are completely homemade, either by poisoning ourselves or by undernourishing ourselves. Agriculture, the industrial agriculture has completely depleted the soils, and we do not get mineral supply from the food we eat anymore.
We do not.
So most of the diseases that appear is either undernourishment or poisoning with the chemicals we use. And from there, it is cascading down in one thing is causing a distortion in the order, the distortion is causing the next thing, so it is cascading through the system. And there's no point in getting the fifth or sixth reaction on a disbalancing thing and to try to put it right. It will help a little bit. But most of the things normally people think about in medicine is just kind of rebalancing or curing the symptoms, and normally the overall situation is getting worse.
Absolutely.
So this is the basic setup of the medical knowledge at the moment, and I think it makes sense to name a few of the original causes of disease, because nobody knows about them.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more.
And the first one is something very common, especially in Northern Europe. It's a displacement of the atlas. It is the highest bone in the spine where the head is anchored into, and normally you have two kind of thorns going into the bone, and with 80% of the people, one of them is out of position. So the head is distorted.
I had mine adjusted.
Yeah, I had mine adjusted as well. Half of the suffering I was suffering from during my lifetime went overnight.
Yeah.
Because the body is forced to readjust this displacement. Yes. And then your back is distorted in a way that the lymphatic flow is blocked and the bones are damaged. And normally it appears with uneven length of the leg. So if you go to a doctor with, let's say, knee or hip problems, he will tell you actually your hip is standing a bit like this and one of the legs is too short, and we need to rebalance it by hiring one of the fluids. Yeah, this is what they did with me when I was 17, which is making it worse because the disbalance is strengthened from underneath. And so this is the first thing that appears when you're kind of age 17, 18. Yes. And from there it starts with back problems. And then because of the blockage of the lymphatic system at certain points, your inner organs start to suffer, especially the function of the stomach and of the kidneys is not the way it should be. And from there, many different diseases start to develop. What you do is get it adjusted. Yes. This takes 15 minutes and a little bit of treatment to put the rest of the body in the original position it's supposed to be. And it takes about 2 years' time to readjust the entire system because you get used to the wrong things. It takes time. It might be a little bit painful when things readjust, but afterwards, never ever again back problems. This is one of the original causes of suffering in the Western culture, and also many things are done wrong during birth. Because women should not lie on their back when they're giving birth. I know. Because then, you need to work against gravity. And the first thing doctors do is pull and turn the head. Yeah. Then this is one of the moments it happens. There's more to it, but and even if the child comes with a cesarean, doctors are told to hold the child by the head. And this is where it goes wrong. So there seems to be a little bit of systematic helping behind this problem. Interesting. Because people do a lot of money on the follow-up diseases. The second one, basic nutrition, is so important. We live on depleted grounds. I know. If you compare the mineral content of organically grown food with industrial grown food, I think there are 2 zeros between the one and the other. So to get your mineral supply, you would be forced to eat 100 kilograms of tomatoes if you go to the supermarket. And if you might as well not eat any. It doesn't make a difference to the state of nutrition of your body. And especially there are a number of core minerals that are messing up our system. This is magnesium, this is zinc, very important for the functioning of the DNA. This is silica. It's not even, if you look on the nutrition tables on food, silicium is not even mentioned on it. It's not in the papers to put it down. And it's so important, and the plants cannot get silicium from depleted grounds because they take all nutrition from the fertilizers, and the microbiology in the ground goes down from like 12 tons per hectare to 600 kilogram per hectare, microbes in the ground. And you need those microbes to dissolve the mineral content of the ground, to get all these minerals out of it. And if you put fertilizer, the biosystem within the soil is getting the signal, we do have enough nitrogen. So please stop dissolving things. So this is a complete disinformation getting into the soil system.
Governments are forcing you to put all this rubbish onto the land. They are destroying the agriculture.
So silicium, zinc, copper, very important for the nervous system. All degenerative old age disease would not appear if the copper supply would be good. Okay, but copper alone doesn't do it, because you cannot process copper if you're suffering of a lack of magnesium, and you cannot process magnesium if you don't have enough vitamin C and proteins, plant proteins. So this is a cascading thing in the food chain, and it's easy to put it right.
I know. So many people of my age suffer from cramp, really bad cramp on the legs. And they're told by the doctors, oh, it's old age. It isn't. It is the body crying out for magnesium.
Yeah.
And nobody tells you that. We need magnesium. I take lots, thank God, and I don't get any cramp.
There's a second thing that is causing trouble in the health system. This is electromagnetic radiation.
Oh, yes.
If you look into the papers of the intelligence agencies, low-level microwave radiation is classified as a non-lethal weapon.
Yes.
Camouflaged as civil technology.
That's right.
This is how the entire bullshit is noted down in the internal papers of the intelligence agencies. And they do this on purpose.
Yes.
For many, many reasons. This is a part of the big setup of transhumanistic technologies to get access to the internal communication of the human body. And to get access, you need two things. You need the radio frequencies to trigger you, to give the input signal.
Yeah.
And you need a certain biology within the system to carry the signal into the body. A healthy body is just leading every radiation around it on its own. It's got a very stable field that is shielding the body, but you need if you have mercury within the system, the signals jump from mercury atom to mercury atom and penetrate the body up to 30 centimeters.
Wow.
And this is where you get all these, it's one thing to understand the original roots going into the system, and then you get this cross effects, like if you have radiation within the body, then Lyme disease develops, because the Borrelia are very electrosensitive, and if they feel radiation around, they panic and start to tenfold their rate of reproduction, because they fear they could die from the radiation. And this is what is disbalancing. Normally, Lyme disease is not a problem. Okay, we have a little problem because it is a form of Lyme disease that is weaponized.
Oh, yes.
Especially the Burgdorferi is a weaponized form that break loose from a lab. So this is not 100% doing what the Lyme disease is supposed to do in a healthy environment. But on the other hand, it is mainly the impact of electromagnetic radiation that is tenfolding the reproduction rate and giving this disease the danger that is coming from this is due to the radiation. And the radiation is inside the body due to mercury poisoning and heavy metal poisoning. And heavy metal poisoning is in the body due to a malfunction of the liver, which is caused by candida, and candida distortion is caused by antibiotics. So again, you need to go back all the way to the initial cause of distortion of biological order. And one of the most devastating initial reasons is antibiotics.
I know.
And it's stupid because it's written on the package. This is antibiotic. I am biotic.
Yeah.
So this is anti-me.
Yes.
Yeah, you can read it, but you still listen to the doctors who say, we need to follow this infection theory, which is rubbish.
I know.
They proved every germ and every virus is existing in every human, and whether it starts to multiply or not is a question of the balance within the biological system. So you cannot get infected. You can get infected by the field structure of a disease. This is what you actually realize when you catch a cold. from somebody.
Yes.
What you do have is this spray of viruses coming out when somebody sneezing or coughing.
Yes.
And then you have a DNA cluster in the air between two people. And this DNA cluster has the ability to carry the soul of the disease, to jump onto somebody else. This is why you immediately realize that you got infected. Normally I would say, okay, I breathe this in, and it will take at least a day until they multiply within me, and I start developing symptoms. No, I know exactly the moment when I caught it. This is why you say I catch a cold.
That's
because
right.
It's imminent, it's
That's
there.
right.
And this is a soul aspect of the disease.
Yeah.
And this is also happening if you live in dense populated areas.
Yes.
Yeah, so this is how biology is regulating itself. And there is some beauty to it in a way. Especially if you look at the positive aspects. The body needs cleansing every now and then.
Yes.
Catching a cold is cleansing the body. You have a fever every 2 years, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. You cannot develop cancer. If you
I
treat
didn't know that.
fever is killing all the cancer cells. Everybody is developing cancer cells all the time. The question is not whether do I have cancer. The question is, does my body regulate this? And the fever you have every now and then is this kick the body is doing against developing cancer. And then they go. And then you stay healthy. Unless the acidity within your body and the oxidative stress within the body is growing too high. Then the growth rate of the cancer is always above the rate of killing cancer cells. There's a value to it. I don't know how the scale was named, I forgot, but the value is somewhere around 300. People below 300 oxidative stress cannot get cancer, and everybody who has cancer is above 300. Yeah. So ask the doctors, what do we do about it? Do we reduce this oxidative stress within the body?
Yes.
Nobody will tell you.
No.
Yeah. And it's so easy. Just eat broccoli. Stop eating meat. Stop eating milk. Yeah. Eat ripe fruit from the trees because they are sweet. Whenever you pick them not ripe, they're disconnected from the tree and they cannot exchange the acids against antioxidant things. So even if they get sweet and ripe in the supermarket, they're still poisonous to the body because they're over-acidificating the body. So everything that goes back to a natural life is actually supported. Everything that we did to ourselves by living this industrial life that is not created for the beauty of it, but only for the profit of people.
That's right. It's bottom line always, isn't it?
Yeah. So very easy to get out. And luckily they do a lot of things to prevent alternative medicine.
I know that
from the markets, but what they never will manage to do is to forbid to eat what you want to eat. Yeah, so this is going to stay within the freedom we have. Yeah. And if somebody says, actually, I can't afford to eat healthy food, it's an excuse. It's not true, because we are so undernourished that we scoff. We eat 3 times as much as we would need to eat. Yeah. And this is getting expensive. Not the good quality is the expensive one. The loads of shit you eat are getting expensive over the time. I know. And another thing, the entire habit of eating meat is basically, it's forgotten, but it roots from smoke sacrifice and fire sacrifice out of the black magic tradition. And we are not supposed to do this from our biology. Very simple, if you look at a cat or a dog, these are animals to eat meat, and they have a very short lower intestine, because meat starts to rot after 14, 15 hours, and it should be out by then. And we humans, we're very long in a lower intestines, which is typical for vegetarians. And we have the possibility to digest it.
Yes.
If it comes to winter times, if it comes to war times, this is a very nice thing of biology, that we might once or twice do this cruel thing of digesting meat. And then it is supposed to take 24 hours until we get something else to eat. And then the body is able to physically process meat. Yes. If you don't eat 24 hours after the meat, anything else, the moment you take something else in, the process is stopped because something else is coming in, the body jumps back to its normal function, and then the thing is going through, rotting within yourself. Would you like to have dead bodies rotting inside your intestines? I don't want.
No.
Yeah, so this is, on one hand, it is coming from the dark side, this is coming from black magic reeds. This is not healthy, it is making us aggressive. It makes us look like the animals we eat. This is incredible. Look at the Germans, they look like pigs. Look at the Americans, they look like bulls and cows. Look at the Greek and the Arab people. They look like goat. You are what you eat. And especially with a pig look, I'm not very satisfied. Yeah. As a German, I need to say this. We're not supposed to be like this.
No.
From our biology, we're beautiful beings, we're godlike, we're not pig-like. And we shouldn't turn ourselves into this.
Very true. I know people need to rethink. You see, we've been sort of programmed to do all these things. And we don't think about it. It's part of the program.
It's habits. You learn it during your childhood.
That's right.
And you just continue with it.
That's right.
Milk is a beautiful topic. We are able to process milk up to age 3.
Yeah.
Cow milk is not healthy because certain compounds are 300-fold compared to human milk. And we hardly can process it, but we manage up to age 3. After age 3, this is going through. It's not used by the body. Most of it is just chucked out, unless it gets attached to the membranes of the intestines, and then they are blocking the uptaking of nutrients. This is what milk does to us.
Good God.
The Chinese, no.
Yeah.
They haven't been drinking milk for thousands of years. Small children, yes. Afterwards, no. Very clever. Soya, traps over traps. Soya is, it is known in China. If a woman is married to a bad man, nobody wants to be married to because he's cruel or lazy or whatever.
Yeah.
She is giving him soya 3 times a day. And 3 years later, she got rid of him because he's dying from cancer. Yeah. So what do? You have this beautiful vegetarian green movement in the Western countries. Yes. Give them soya.
Oh my God.
So it's tricky, but it's possible to find the way through the jungle of disinformation and get to the right concepts. And I can say this from my personal experience. I've been converted to healthy food after I was close to dying a year ago.
Yes.
And I cannot go to a restaurant anymore because I would puke afterwards. I cannot go to a supermarket because I would puke afterwards. My body recognized healthy food.
Yeah.
After all those years, he recognized, and he refuses to take on anything else. And you develop a sensation for it. If you go through the supermarket shelves, this looks like a rubbish dump in the eyes. If once you realize the fine structure, the radiation coming from something your body wants to have, you remember how it feels like to have something healthy in front of you. And it is such a plus in living quality you gather from eating healthy. It's difficult to describe. You just have to do it and enjoy it.
I know. It's I live mainly on fruit. I love fruit and eggs. I like eggs. But most of the food is, as you say, absolute rubbish. It's just bulk, that's it.
Mm.
What else do we want to talk about today?
Maybe we should go to the poisoning side.
Yes.
Because certain things appear out of a political context.
Oh, yes.
And especially the I would call them two complexes. One I already went to a little bit into it. This is the chain of antibiotics,
yes,
distorting the liver function, cutting down the lymphatic flow, the self-cleansing of the liver, and then you get over-acidification and heavy metal poisoning of the body to let the radiation in. This is one complex. Another one has to do with the nanocrystals that we breathe in.
Yes.
On one hand, they are part of the rocket shield of the military concept to create particulate plasma layers to defend countries from rocket attacks. You can heat up the layer and then the rocket just melts. This is the military concept, but the particles they use, they also have use in technologies developed by the intelligence community, especially the piezo crystals. It's barium, strontium, titanium-based piezo crystals that have this fringe abilities to process biophotons on one hand, to split annihilated biophotons and to metal up the internal body communication. This is one function. And the other one is that they take in electromagnetic fields and spit electrons on it. So this is part of the piezoelectric properties of this material. And there's one concept designed to make the nervous system dissolve and rearrange, utilizing not the copper it is supposed to utilize. If you're healthy with your nutrition, you have enough copper in the body and it will always heal again, even if it is dissolved at a certain point. If the copper is available, you get the original nervous system back, because this is self-organization. If you're suffering from a lack of copper, your nervous system, this protein prion chains, will reassemble with other heavy metals that are available within the system. Basically, it's barium, strontium, iron also sometimes. And then you get a nervous system that is sensitive to electromagnetic waves. With copper, it is not. You know, copper is not magnetic, so it does not react on fields. If you have barium, strontium inside, the new nerve tissue will react on electromagnetic fields. And with these piezo crystals, they build the core of new building knots of the nervous system. So you have the barium on top of the crystal structure, so there the protein prion assembles on top of the piezo crystal, starts to reassemble nervous tissue, reconnect to the existing system in your brain, and then you get kind of thousands of knots in your brain and in the nervous system that are fed by piezo crystals that react on radiation coming from outside. This, you can find it on YouTube if you go into transhumanistic research and search for designs of nanobots. You will find this self-assembling. They look spider-like, you know, with the crystal in the core and then the arms growing on top of it. This is the concept of self-assembling nanomachines to regenerate an artificial type of nervous systems within the human body. You find it on this part of the research, and you find it, and this is especially important for Great Britain, in the TSE disease, in mad cow disease, is exactly what is happening there. And if once you recognize the similarity between the disease and the transhumanistic technology, and you look into the details, one of the compounds that led to mad cow disease was a mandatory vaccination containing a chelat that pulled all the copper from the cows. There was one farmer that refused to take this vaccination, and none of his cows got ill. So the undernourishment and copper is part of this concept. And they did it on purpose with these animals. It was some kind of harmless bug they wanted to vaccinate away. that everybody was forced to do it, although it was not a real danger for the animals. And they needed it to have it mandatory because they were exploring the concept back then. So they needed a kind of 100% test groups to be able to make statistics on what the system does, because today it is applied on humanity.
I know.
And we don't get mad cow disease, we get Creutzfeldt-Jakob instead.
Yeah.
If the immune system is run down too much, to not being able to keep this disease in an area where it is a working technology.
Yeah.
You know, you still feel healthy, you have the ability to organize your life, but they can influence the nervous part of your biological system with the technology. This is where they don't want to make us ill. But if people grow older and the immune system goes weaker, it turns into these illnesses, which is Creutzfeldt-Jakob, ALS, Parkinson, dementia. Which one you get depends on the heavy metal pollution, the quality, the types of heavy metals you have in your system. If you live in a house with lead pipes, old lead pipes, you probably will get ALS, because this is the form related to lead poisoning. But the things happening before are always the same. This is about transhumanistic technologies. And these are things one needs to know, because it is on the side of poisoning and undernutrition. You need both poisoning and undernutrition to disbalance things. And you need to know exactly what to do to rebalance it. And then it's no problem. Magnesium, vitamin C and copper to fight the undernourishment. Give information medicine to pull the piezo crystals and the mercury and the other heavy metals. Use zeolite as an ion exchanger to rebalance the biochemistry in your body, and all the things will just go away.
If only people would listen.
Listen
and not do what the doctors tell them. Because if the National Health Service in this country, I would happily close down 90% of it.
It is about self-responsibility, and self-responsibility is about trusting your own intelligence. If somebody comes up and tells you, you must, something is wrong.
I know.
If somebody is not able to give you arguments for what he suggested, and is not able to discuss the arguments you have, you shouldn't go there.
That's right.
You should either wait a little bit longer until you find somebody to trust with. And there are really excellent people in the field of natural medicine.
I know.
Just compare it, if you compare the results in cancer treatment. The alternative medicine has, after 5 years, healing success of 95%.
That's right. I know, I've seen
it. And the normal medicine has a healing success of 2%. And if you don't do anything, you still have 50%.
Exactly. So, why can't people understand that?
And this is, you can easily derive it from papers. You can see this is the fact, and then you should trust the perception of things instead of going there, getting radiated and poisoned with chemical.
That was very interesting, Harold. People need to know that they have to take responsibility for their health. And, you know, your body is your body. It's your responsibility. And it's stupid to hand that responsibility over to somebody else.
It's always stupid to hand responsibility to other people.
I know. You know, when doctors try to persuade me to have vaccinations or antibiotics or anything like that, and I said, no, I don't want it. It's my decision, my body, my decision. No. They don't like it. They're not used to people saying no. But we have to.
Yeah, they can really get angry.
Oh, tell me about it.
Yeah. Once I was in hospital because I hit my head on a too low door frame, and I had the symptoms of nothing was fractured, but my brain was not in position anymore. And I could feel it, how it was distorted within me, and it tried to glide back. And I was, days afterwards, I was getting dizzy and lost consciousness because of this gliding of the brain. So I said, okay, I have to check this up in hospital. First thing, the X-ray was labeled, not in order, do not use, and he sent me into this room. Oh, everything is okay. And then I asked him, what is it that makes this feeling of having this? And he told me, actually, no, your brain is fixed within the bone. It cannot glide, it cannot move. And I remembered my father was hunter.
Yes.
And I was always in the basement when we put the animal apart, and I remember how it looks like. When you take out a brain of a skull, and nothing is fixed there in position, and we're not different from animals. I told him, no, you're wrong. The brain is loose, it can move from here to there, and I can imagine if you get hit, that it does displace itself a bit. And later I checked it, it was in the literature described the way it is. But he was so convinced about that the brain is actually grown, fixed onto the bone.
No.
And he started to scream at me because I questioned his...
You dared
to question,
yes.
Anyways.
Right.
Don't get angry about them, you don't need to see them.
No, you don't. You very, very... Unless of accidents, yes.
Yeah. But even there, it's... I remember my middle son broke his leg. We went there and they wanted to put a screw in the bone. And I said, no. My boy's not walking around with a screw. Please fix this in the traditional way. And he said, we cannot do this. And the leg was twisted like this, turned by 40 degrees to the side, so the foot was shown somewhere in the wrong direction. And I thought, you didn't put screws 50 years ago. I want to have somebody in this hospital who is able to just put it in the right position and fix it there. We are not doing this. And I needed to get angry. And after me screaming for 15 minutes, there was a nurse that gave me a short look, went there, put it right. One hand on the leg, one hand on the foot. The boy was screaming for a second and it was in position again. She smiled at me subtly. And I told her this was at least 30 from the 35 degrees distortion that you corrected, isn't it? And she went like, shh.
I know.
She would have been losing her job for helping.
Yes.
This is hospitals.
I know. They are not there to help you. Never. They want you to take all the medication they give you. Whether you need it or not, you're that age, you should be taking it. I'm sorry, no. No. People have to take responsibility for their own health and their own lives. And research it. You've all got computers. All the answers are there, just find them. Don't depend on the medical profession to help you.
Don't depend on people who are trying to sell you something.
They get free holidays, free computers, they get all these things if they sell you a lot of drugs. And when did the government become qualified to decide what drugs you need? Because the government tells the doctors what to prescribe. Does that make sense?
They don't look qualified in medicine.
No, they're not.
No.
But they get money from the drug companies, you see. So they push those drugs. Yeah.
Yeah. The easiest way to get healthy is get rid of money, because then all those games would stop immediately. But this is a different topic.
I know.
Another out of the box idea.
Yes, and we've got to start living our lives out of the box. We have to. For our own sanity, we've got to get out of that box we've been put in.
Yeah, you get wet from time to time, but it's much more fun.
It is. Definitely. Thank you very much, Harold.
You're welcome.
It's been very interesting, as always. And look forward to the next one.
Okay.
Thank you.